everybody, and welcome to episode 409 of Good Luck High Five.
That's right. You're listening to a podcast that's for you if you play Magic the Gathering. Whether you're sitting at home during the pandemic and playing Arena, or maybe you're sitting at home during the pandemic and playing Magic Online. We're here for you.
I'm one of your hosts, Maria.
I'm another one of your hosts, Megan.
And as we said on the podcast last week, we're back to recording virtually.
That's right.
So we're in our two little hobbit holes here in Minnesota recording away.
Oh, it's a bummer.
It sure is. But it's our reality, you know?
It is. Do you know, isn't it so weird to think, like, in the future, if people go back and listen to these episodes, it's like a little time capsule of this time.
Absolutely. I mean, they're just gonna get a slice of pandemic life from us.
Exactly. And it'll be like, wow, you remember that time that there was a pandemic?
I'm thinking about the aliens that are going to come and visit, and when they open up the time capsule that humanity has created to preserve its greatest memories, and our podcast is in that time capsule, they'll be like, wow, this is what it was like for these minor life forms.
We made it into the time capsule?
We did. We truly
did.
I'm
excited. Speaking of aliens, I watched the film Alien the other day.
Oh, classic.
It's so good.
Megan, have you seen Aliens yet?
Yes.
Okay.
I've seen Aliens.
Great.
I saw Aliens before I saw Alien.
Whoa.
I know.
That seems like a logical fallacy. Like that shouldn't be allowed to happen.
Like, yeah, you can't.
Like you just can't
see aliens before you see a single alien.
But somehow you accomplish it.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's just so great. I love that movie for like a thousand reasons. And Aliens too.
I think my favorite moment is when she goes back for Jones.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking about Jones.
Oh, Jones is great.
Jones is A+. I also love the computer, of course. And
it's so creepy that the computer is named Mother.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I love it. Well, I was going to say that I love all the technology being from the 70s in the future.
Yes, it's so of an era.
Because I like to think that in the future, like things got messed up, like stuff went down, technology somehow got ruined. And in the future, all we are left with is like, we're like, no, we don't need iPads and big fancy flat screens.
It's like a screen that's like this big.
We're going back to like cathode ray tube TVs and like orange and black computers because that is all we need here in the future.
Because that's what we need.
And somehow they came to that conclusion and I want to know how, and what happened.
I just feel like they were like, what if we don't bother inventing anything?
Yeah. Like they
outside of like the aliens part. And
their resources were tapped. They figured out how to get into space. Oh, wait, are you talking about the movie or people in the future?
I mean, both. But I was thinking about the movie. They were just like,
oh, yeah.
I mean, but also, what if we had spent all the time that we used to get to an iPhone and instead had spent all of that brain power on space travel?
That's what I'm saying.
I feel like maybe we would be closer to being like more of an active presence in space.
Ugh, I just wait for the day.
I know.
Anyway.
Yes. Other pandemic check-in, Maria. I've been watching the film Alien. What have you been doing to make this new stay-at-home life work for you?
Pandemic check-ins. Remember when we did this back in March or whatever it was?
And here we are again.
Yes, I have been doing lots of painting of my house.
Oh, that's exciting.
Which is like what a lot of people are doing now because you're stuck inside and you're like, well, I might as well make where I'm stuck look nice. And so I've been doing a lot of painting, a lot of reorganizing and organizing in the first place, et cetera, et cetera. So I have paint literal still on my hands right now and on my arms. You can see it in the video. There it is. There's some of my color, everybody.
What color is it? Because your video isn't showing up on my screen.
This is wildberry.
Oh, that's a fun sounding color.
Wildberry, everybody. That's in my dining room and hallway. Wildberry. It looks a little like blood, but you know what?
Oh.
We're not going to think about the fact that I just painted a blood hallway, okay?
Oh, a blood hallway seems very like pandemic appropriate.
Yeah, it truly does. It truly does.
I went yesterday and did a spit test.
Ooh.
A COVID spit test. It was disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, look, we're very lucky here in Minnesota that we even get these stinking things, because in other states, you can't get tested without a doctor's note. You pay $100 for a test, blah, 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 blah.
Yes,
but
that's very true.
Tell me how long it took you to make as much spit as you needed to spit into the spit tube.
Maria, I was literally 10 minutes. It was so gross. It's so gross. It's so gross. And afterwards, I couldn't stop feeling the spit in my mouth. I just went home, and my whole drive home, I was just like hyper aware of all the spit in my mouth.
Oh God.
It was so gross.
I
wish they had stuck a swab up my nose.
Yeah. Yeah. You've had both now, and
yes.
that's better.
I would prefer the swab up the nose.
Wow. That's saying something. Truly.
But we are very lucky because it was very quick. Like, we didn't even make an appointment. We just were walk-ups.
Yeah.
And literally in and out in under half an hour.
Yeah, it's great.
And
that
part
should
of
be
that was my
everywhere.
problem, taking 10 minutes to make all the spit.
Yeah. How's your pandemic going out there in listener land, everybody? You can let us know by tweeting at us at GLHF Magic. We'd like to know how you're spending your time. I've also been playing plenty of Historic, Megan.
Ooh.
Which, we'll get into our main show topic in a second, but I just want to touch on this because for all of you Boggles fans out there, we are living in a golden boggly age in
That's
Historic.
very true.
The either white-black or blue-white version of the SRAM Auras deck in Historic is very viable to play right now. And in fact, the people at the top of the Historic ladder, at least one of them, is playing this deck.
Maria,
the constructed ladder.
Are you a black-white or a blue-white?
I'm playing blue-white right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the right answer.
I also picked up the blue-white deck, and it is very good.
Oh, I'm so excited that, because look, everybody, Boggle's not always good. If you're playing in a format that's mostly like weird control decks and stuff, it's not going to be good. But right now, people are actually playing creatures and stuff, and you're like, you idiots.
That's true. Although I have to say, I have started running into a lot of the Sultai decks that play, I swear, 4 Fatal Push, 4 Thoughtseize, 4 Extinction Event.
Yeah.
That can be a little brutal, but that's the only one.
Yeah, the Sultai deck can be a little rough, especially if they Thoughtseize you on turn 1, or if your hand isn't Thoughtseize proof or whatever. But
you can still win those matches, which is absurd.
You can. It is kind of wild. And I'm sitting here thinking oh, this is so strange because these Boggles don't even have hexproof or anything, but I still feel okay playing this deck. So I think that who's ever developed or saw this deck coming in Historic, which obviously somebody did because they put Core Spirit Dancer into the format, they've really hit the nail on the head with where it landed. It's powerful enough, it's competitive enough, and you don't need to have an actual slippery Boggle for it to work out.
It's true. And sometimes there have been times when I went turn 1 Selfless Savior, turn 2 Core Spirit Dancer, and my opponent conceded.
As they should.
They were just oh, never mind. I'm never getting rid of that. Okay.
One of my favorite things has been to play against Goblins players in Historic, which I've run into a few times. But it's so fun because in my sideboard, I run Authority of the Consuls, speaking of Kaladesh, which we'll talk about later. And it causes their permanents to come, or their creatures to come into play tapped. And so they try and go off with Muxus or whatever. Or I also play a Grafdigger's Cage. And then they're just you mean my deck is just all bad 1/1s?
Yes. And Authority of the Consuls, they put all those goblins into play and you gain a life for each of them.
That's true.
That's great. It's really great.
So we'll post a link in the show notes to this deck list in case you want to try it out, because it's a really fun and easy way to get into Historic. The deck has a very clear game plan, even if it is trickier to play once you start to get into higher levels of competition. I think it's a good entryway drug into the Historic format, if you will.
That's right. But this week, we are not talking about Historic.
No.
Aside from that little intro, But we're talking about the rest of the draft formats that we have been around for.
Yes, last week, in case you missed it, we went through the first half of our magical life and what those draft formats were like, our memories of them, what were some of the mechanics, what do we think about them now with through the lens of history and time.
That's right. So that was Return to Ravnica through Eldritch Moon.
Spooky Moon.
Spooky Moon. That means we're picking up with Kaladesh.
And how apt.
Yes, because we obviously are in the world of Kaladesh Remastered right now.
But before we get into all of that, we're going to take a pause here really quick and tell you thank you for supporting the show. If you're a patron of the show over on patreon.com/GLHF Magic. We are so thankful for you. Speaking of Thanksgiving.
That's right. When we sit down to our lonely turkeys.
Lonely cold turkeys.
Yes, we'll be lonely in the room, but in spirit, very thankful and feeling very loved by everyone in the community who supports us on Patreon.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody who's been a supporter, who recently became a supporter. We always need more of you. If you're like, oh, they're fine. No, we need more members of the family. Please come join us. If you've got $5 a month to spare, if you're like, hey, they give me $5 worth of happiness every month, please consider becoming a member at our squirrel level, which is the level that gets you into our Discord server and a whole bunch of other sweet rewards too from levels up from that. But you can become a patron for any dollar amount, even $1. You can join the family.
That's right. Thank you as well to our sponsor, Card Kingdom, cardkingdom.com/GLHF, a great place to get, say, perhaps all of your Commander Legends product that you're jonesing for.
Oh, I'm jonesing for it. I see people playing Commander Legends sealed, through their top-down cameras and stuff, and I'm just like, I wish we could be playing this in person right now.
Oh, I know. You can check out our battle with the 2 pre-con decks over on our YouTube channel if you are wondering if you should pick one of those up. The answer is that one of them you certainly should, and the other one only if you have some drastic improvements to make to it.
Yes, go check out our battle. We play ASE versus Wyleth, youtube.com/goodluckI5. People have been loving that video, so go check us out playing those decks. We play at tabletop, like you do at home on the kitchen table or playing with your buddies.
Once upon a time when we could sit at the same table.
Oh, right? Oh my gosh. So many moons ago.
All right, Maria, we're picking up with Kaladesh.
Yes, we are. So our draft retrospective, Kaladesh. This is a set that came out in September of 2016.
I cannot believe that that's how long ago it was.
Yes, that is absurd.
It absolutely is absurd.
Our lives were completely different.
Yes. And this, I can't believe that this format is 4 years old. It doesn't feel that old.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
And, we talked a little bit last week about Kaladesh Remastered and how it turns out that, at least in our opinion, it doesn't solve some of the problems that we had with Kaladesh Draft.
Yeah, so playing Kaladesh Remastered, I all of a sudden started to get flashbacks to the format.
Yes.
When when somebody played, what was it called? The Untethered Express against me, which...
Oh, Pain Train.
Back in the day, everybody called it the Pain Train because it only costs 1 to crew this dumb thing, and when it attacks, you get a +1/+1 counter on it, and it was already a 4/4, kill me.
Yeah.
And what was it, an uncommon?
Yeah, I think.
So let me actually just double check that, but yeah.
Well, because there was wasn't there the one at that one came around with Aether Revolt, because there was the first one in Kaladesh.
Oh, that was
which was the first Pain Train. And then the second Pain Train.
So what one was the first Pain Train? I'm looking here. I know Ballista Charger's pretty good, but that was 5 mana.
What's the one that I'm thinking of? Okay, so Untethered Express was the one from Aether Revolt.
Yeah.
Like you said, 4 mana trample. When it attacks, put a counter on it.
Gross.
It's a 4/4 accrue one. what is this?
I mean, you did have Smuggler's Copter in original Kaladesh.
No, which is the one that I'm thinking of?
Which had to be banned. Are you thinking of the Aradara Express? Oh, Renegade Freighter. That's what you're thinking of.
Yes, Renegade Freighter. There we go.
Yep, absolutely. When it attacks, it gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. So almost like the Pain Train. Crew 2 for 3 mana 4/3.
Yeah, that one. And this one was like
common.
Yes, it's a crew 2 and it's a 4/3. But the fact that it costs 3. So this would come down on, it was. Whew.
And what's funny to me is that we're sitting here and we're like, oh, this format completely ruined.
Renegade Freighter was a common.
And we're talking about literally 2 cards, and one of them wasn't even in this set.
Yeah, that's true.
And that shows you the effect that cards at common, how incredibly impactful they can be on a set. Because I recall so many games that were good games becoming bad games because these cards were played. And that's unfortunate because I do think that these formats are interesting and there's cool things you can do, like black-green counters.
Energy was so cool.
Yeah, really, really neat stuff. But some of these vehicles were out of control enough to affect my and Megan's experience of this format. Only 2 cards and we're just fart noise. You know what I mean? Wild.
And it was just in addition to those, it was just such a bomb driven format.
So I'm looking at the card right now, Sky Sovereign Council Flagship, which is a mythic and basically unbeatable. You can beat it, of course, but honestly, can you?
No, but can you?
Because it's an artifact, it means it's harder to kill. This is a 5 mana 6/5 mythic flying.
And that one's from Aether Revolt, right?
No, this one's from Kaladesh.
Really?
Yeah, I'm on Scryfall right now checking out set Kaladesh. So unless I'm completely out of my gourd here, this is from OG Kaladesh. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, it deals 3 damage to target creature, planeswalker, and opponent controls. Crew cost 3. So you just play it, you kill something, you attack, you kill something. If you had something that needed to kill it during combat or whatever, it's still going to get to ping something. Anyway, that's just one example of a card that I think was too good. It actually showed up in Constructed too, if I remember, kind of as a sideboard card. But anyway.
Yeah. No, it was sometimes in the main.
Oh, was it really?
I think. Yeah. And so I feel like if we can just start lumping in Aether Revolt, because for me, the 2 formats also weren't very different.
No. Obviously I made the mistake of not even knowing, that the Pain
Aether
Train
Revolt
was from this.
Didn't change the experience of Kaladesh, really.
No,
I don't think.
I don't recall it doing that.
Yeah. And it was just kind of it's so weird because like you said, there was so much cool stuff going on and it's kind of hard to pinpoint. You're like, well, what exactly happened? What went wrong here?
I mean, honestly, a few bombs being a little too bomby, and then some commons and uncommons being a little too good. Besides the fact that, by the way, those vehicles we're talking about, they're colorless. You can put them in any deck. I didn't mention that, but there you go.
Oh yeah, that was a big thing about vehicles. Yeah, that you could just put them anywhere. Bristling Hydra. This is run from Kaladesh. And I remember 2 green for a 4/3. When it enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy, pay 3 energy, put a +1/+1 counter on the Hydra. It gains hexproof until end of turn.
Yeah.
What are you ever supposed to do?
You can't ever do anything.
The answer is just and that's so rare. That's not a mythic. That's just a rare. You can run into it pretty frequently.
And I think that this set is kind of one of the, well, maybe I shouldn't say, but it feels like they started to learn a little bit of lessons from this set, that you just can't put something like the Pain Train in at common. It just makes for a super unfun experience. Yeah. And I don't think we super see anything like that at uncommon after this. Maybe I'll eat my words as we go on, but that's what my remembrance of this set is.
Yeah. And I feel like part of it for me is as I'm looking over this, kind of remembering, I think part of it too was that there seemed like there were so many cool things that you could do, but they weren't actually viable just because the format was about the best card.
Yeah.
So it was stuff like, right, Consulate Dreadnought is one thing that comes to mind. 1 mana for a 7-11 vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
Crew 6. And you're like, oh, like you would want to come up with something really cool. You're like, how early can I possibly crew this 7-11 Consulate Dreadnought? And the answer is just like, that strategy, there wasn't room in this format to try and do something cool like that. Like instead you were better served just like trying to take the best cards.
And I'm so sad because I think energy is one of the coolest mechanics that they made in the game. Like a card like Thriving Turtle actually being a card that you want to play in your draft, I think is pretty neat. So I'm here for that. But like we've been saying, the Gear Hulks were just a little too good. The cycle of Gear Hulks, some of the vehicles just a bit too good, just made some games that you would have had just not happen.
Yeah, exactly. And there were some like really great rares, and then there were some rares that were just bad. And like if you opened a pack, or you never opened like one of the really good rares, you were kind of behind already.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Not to say you can't do cool things, because you obviously can. We're just saying that sometimes the number of times that our games were non-games because of certain cards was a bit too high.
Yeah, I think for sure. That is kind of, what comes to mind when I think of Kaladesh.
And too easy to accomplish.
Yeah. But after that, so
Amonkhet.
we had Amonkhet. Amonkhet, which was, I think, our first experience with cycling.
Was it really?
I think it might have been.
I mean, we probably saw it. Did we see it in like a master set or anything like that?
We might have, but like this was the first time that I think that I can remember.
Wow. Well, I mean, obviously we fell in love with it. Cycling is one of the most beloved, if not the most beloved mechanic in the history of Magic the Gathering. Also, it had Aftermath, Embalm, and Exert as keywords in this set.
Great mechanics.
Great mechanics. Aftermath, pretty cool. Embalm, I love. Exert, really interesting. And also a very neat and inventive plane to exist on in Amonkhet that turned out to be pretty dark, honestly.
Yeah, real dark story over in Amonkhet.
So,
and this also had -1/-1 counters.
Oh yeah, that was cool. I liked those a lot.
Yeah. This was one of the first times that I think we had they had the punch out little page.
Yeah.
Like the punch out insert card for like -1/-1 counters and like exerted and stuff like that on it.
Yeah.
And embalmed.
Yes. I love those little punch out chits.
Yeah. Because there was so much stuff to keep track of. But it wasn't like Amonkhet was nice because like there was a lot of stuff that you could potentially keep track of, but it wasn't too much.
So, but if people don't know, just before we get into the cards and stuff, I'm going to just give you the absolute briefest story of Amonkhet, which was, it's a plane that's based on kind of ancient Egypt. And these people, their society was very warlike, and they had people whose ultimate goal it was to become the best in competing these trials to please the gods. And if you were the best, you got murdered.
Yeah.
That was your prize.
And on the way there, if you weren't the best, you also got murdered.
Yeah, so like everybody died in search of glory. And it turned out that these gods were false gods. They weren't even the real deal. They were just fake. And people are getting murdered to join Nicol Bolas's army.
Well, the gods weren't fake. They later had, like, he had to come and murder all the gods.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He made, like, the scarab god and the locust god to come and murder the other gods.
And I'm just like, that's got to be a real kick in the pants. You're like, I trained my whole life to become the best at this trial to please my god, and all I got was a stinking spot as a peon in Bolas's army. His undead
that's
army.
Right. And they didn't know that. Like,
no, they
thought,
didn't know.
Yeah. This was also when we first had, so we had the gods in Theros that were indestructible, but they weren't a creature unless you had the right devotion.
Yes.
And we saw the return of gods in Amonkhet, and they were also indestructible, but the way that they got around that being way too powerful was that they couldn't attack or block unless they met some kind of condition. So Hazaret, you had to have one or fewer cards in hand for her to attack or block. Bantu, you couldn't attack or block unless a creature died under your control that turn. I want to say Kefnet was you had to have 7 cards in hand.
Yep.
And stuff like that. So I thought that that was also like a really cool thing. And then they also had their static ability on them that you could activate.
Yeah, that's a really good
Or
point.
their activated ability.
Something that I loved from this set was the cycle of cartouches.
Yeah.
I think we might have mentioned these before, but they're so cool, and they still get played today. Yeah, I just played this in Historic the other day, Cartouche of Knowledge. 1 in a blue, enchant creature you control. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has flying, thumbs up.
Yeah. So they all gave, for each color, they all gave +1/+1, but then they also gave like an ability associated with that color. Like white gives first strike, black gives lifelink, and then they each had an ETB effect. Also associated with that color. Just like very flavorful, very cool cards that you like actually wanted to play, you know, which isn't always true of auras.
Yep. Absolutely. Great point. A couple of cards that I've just like been scrolling through here that just jumped to the forefront of my mind. The first one I'm going to talk to you about because I know you have fond memories of this card, as does anybody who got to play with it, Drakehaven.
Yes. Oh my goodness. How have I not thought about Drakehaven in
so beautiful.
In so long.
2 in a blue for an enchantment at rare. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying.
Like, so fun. So fun.
Love it.
Like, all you want to do is draw cards. And if you get to draw cards and also make drakes while you do it, what a world.
Yeah, and like cycling here just was a ability that was just randomly on cards. Like it was just on some random creatures, like Shimmer Scale Drake had cycling 2 on it. So you can either play your 3/4 flyer for 5 or you can cycle it for 2. So stuff like that was just like, oh, well, great. So the cycling deck is just all positive.
Yeah. It was, it was a really cool format. Oh, there was also Faith of the Devoted that went with that blue-black cycling deck.
Oh,
this
great.
was 2 in a black. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1. If you do, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. That was an enchantment also.
And we haven't talked about Embalm yet, which is a pretty sweet mechanic too. I just want to mention because it did show up a teeny little bit in Standard, but it was just such a neat mechanic for aggressive decks. And one of the cards that actually won cutest card in this set was Sacred Cat, who had it. Which was just a little 1/1 for 1 white mana with lifelink and embalm cost of white, which what you did is you exiled that card from your graveyard and you made a token that's a copy of it, except that it was a zombie.
Cute. And then we saw Hour of Devastation was the follow-up.
Yep.
To this, where we had first up the other gods, the 3 other ones that Nicol Bolas had made.
Yep.
The spooky ones.
The spooky gods.
And we also saw Eternalize, which was the same as Embalm, except instead of coming back with its original stats, it came back as a 4/4 zombie.
Oh yeah, this is basically like another example of what I'm going to call the Megamorph mechanic, which is the exact same mechanic, except bigger.
What if we took the same mechanic but bigger?
What if I wish I could actually know the answer to how this happens in R&D, but part of me wishes that it's just like, you know what? Just put it back in, make it bigger.
Make it bigger. So this led to one of my favorite examples, Champion of Wits.
Oh, I knew it. I knew
this
you were
was a rare from
it.
Hour of Devastation. 2 in a blue for a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, you may draw cards equal to its power. If you do, discard 2 cards. So like the first time you play it, you just draw 2, discard 2. But when you eternalize it for 5 blue, you draw 4, discard 2.
Oh, the card was so good.
So great.
Once again,
so great.
I don't remember this set changing the draft experience very much.
I do agree with that, yeah.
one of my favorite cards, and I think everybody's favorite cards from this set, was River Hoopoe.
Oh, River Hoopoe.
We love
you.
it. It's green and a blue for a 1/3 flying bird, a beautiful hoopoe standing next to a river of blood. 3 green blue.
That's what's happening.
You gain 2 life and draw a card.
Oh, great card. And you could play this all day.
What more do you want?
Oh, nothing more.
Nothing more. Yeah.
And like we said, this one did Hour of Devastation, did like twist the god mechanic a little bit, even more from the first one, which in this one, they aren't indestructible, but when they die, you can return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step.
Yeah. So
it goes to the graveyard. They have an opportunity to maybe do something about it, but then it just comes back.
It just goes back anyway. This is a set that gave us Hollow One, which became a huge staple in Modern for a period of time. 5 mana for a 4/4. Costs 2 less to cast for each card you've cycled or discarded this turn, and has cycling itself on it for 2. Good old Hollow One.
Are the ones that I'm thinking of? Which
what are you
format
thinking
is
of?
the gods that don't go away?
What do you mean don't go away?
You remember the ones that even if you kill them or you exile them, however they leave the battlefield, they go back into your library?
Yeah, that was wasn't that like Kefnet and stuff? They tuck themselves?
No, they're indestructible.
Huh.
Wow, I'm now having like a really weird moment.
MTG gods tuck themselves. I think the CIA is really going to have some questions. Yeah, the Theros gods.
What?
Was it the Theros gods?
No, the Theros gods are indestructible also.
Huh.
What is happening to my brain? Right? Because I'm not crazy. This is a thing, right?
Yeah, they tuck. I know what you're talking about.
That tuck?
Yeah, let's look up.
I feel like I'm going nuts.
Okay, yes. So Kefnet, the zombie god.
Oh,
so God Eternal Kefnet is the one who tucks. Our first original Kefnet, the Mindful, is not a tuck.
That's right, because when they come back in War of the Spark.
Yes, so they have been eternalized by Bolus.
Yes, okay. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I was really having a moment there. I was like, but it's these gods, but it's not these gods.
I know. I was also confused for a second, but
okay. Yeah.
It's just when they come back. When they come back, they get tucked.
When they come back, they get tucked.
So which is really interesting if you think about all the different ways these gods have been handled over the years. And they're all of them are some kind of indestructible. I'm putting that in quotes.
Yeah, or like they come back.
They come back. He will come out.
He will come out. Oh, man. Wow. I'm so glad we solved that because...
You're gonna lose it pretty quick here.
I was losing it.
I gotta tell you, everybody, I'm looking at Megan's camera right now, and while she was losing it, I was like, what's going on with Megan? Something's happening over there, but I don't know what it is. Turns out.
Oh my goodness. We also just got some really cool cards, and this doesn't really speak to the limited environment that much, but just like some cool rares that factored in cool ways in other formats, like Approach of the Second Sun.
Yep. Really cool
As
card.
Foretold.
Absolutely.
Which is a really cool card. God Pharaoh's Gift. Just some cool stuff.
Some stuff that really lasted on in the memories of everybody who played it, and it found its way into other formats other than just Standard or Draft.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. I'm still recovering from how spooked I was.
I'm going to bring up our next set of sets that we visited, which was Ixalan and Rivals of Ixalan.
Oh, that's right. Wow. I also can't believe how long ago this was.
So can I. I mean, time has no meaning, as we say constantly on this show. Yeah. But Ixalan is a set I remember pretty fondly, especially for the fact that I really thought the flavor of it was so cool and very, very silly.
Like dinos. It was the first time we got dinos.
We got dinosaurs. I mean, who could not love a set with dinosaurs and vampires and pirates?
Yeah.
What I think is cool is that somebody at Wizards was like, we're going to do a set. Okay, hear me out. It's dinosaurs, wizards, and pirates. And if I was working there, I would even be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, we're not doing that. You're out of your mind. Let's just put them in their own sets, put them all 3 in one, and we loved it.
And this was also our first experience, like not as strong of a tribal theme as like maybe Lorwyn, but it was still very strong tribal draft.
Yes.
Right? You could draft the vampires deck. You could draft the merfolk deck. You could draft the dinos deck.
Right. Exactly. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that Mark Rosewater was critical of himself in this set too, by saying it wasn't easy enough to cross the streams in draft with these archetypes. And that was something he gave himself a little tick mark for at the end of the year when he evaluates kind of how the sets went that year, that he wished there was better ways for you to cross over, like drafting dino pirates or whatever, instead of kind of making you stuck in your lane without a way to kind of deviate if you needed to in your draft.
Yeah, I do remember enjoying this format, but I will say I do also remember tiring of it eventually for that reason.
Yes. Yeah.
Like
because,
I remember just being like, I don't want to, I don't want to hop into this draft and know that I'm going to end up in one of these established archetypes.
Right. And not be able to escape if I need to. Like you've made the commitment. You have to stay.
Exactly. You can't jump ship.
And also, yeah. And you can't, like, if there's a sweet card, you can't like be like, ooh, I think I know I can make this work in my deck. Like you just couldn't. Yeah. So that was one of the criticisms, but I loved the set for flavor, and I loved the cards that it gave us for standard, and even some cards wound up in modern from this set too. I remember, I had great fun in Ixalan despite that.
It was a good time. We also had, this was the first time we saw the transform lands.
Yes.
The only time we've seen them so far, where they were some kind of artifact on their front. And then if you met a requirement, they transformed.
Oh, they were so good. Search for Oskanta Iconic.
Yes. Oh yeah. They weren't all artifacts. Some of them were like enchantments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How could I forget that this is the set that gave us one of my favorite cards of all time?
I know, right?
Wow.
Search
for Oskanta. Like what a card.
I think one of my favorite things from this set, and indeed a lot of people's, was the new mechanic of Explore.
Oh, what a good mechanic.
It was so good. Once again, smoothed out your draws, gave you some help if you were missing lands. Let's find a classic Explore creature here.
Like what a good, like Jade Light Ranger is the rare, but Merfolk Branchwalker is like the iconic.
There it is. Yep.
Common?
It's an uncommon.
Okay, that makes sense.
When it enters the battlefield, you explore, which means you look at the top card of your library, put that card into your hand if it's a land. Otherwise, you put a +1/+1 counter on Merfolk Branchwalker and then put the card back or put it into your graveyard.
Like what a good mechanic. It's so
great
good.
mechanic. Thumbs up. It's flavorful. It makes sense being called Explorer, and it helps the game be better.
Yeah. And it's great for limited.
A+ for limited.
It gives you fewer non-games.
I think that the mechanic of Enrage, which was the dinosaur mechanic, which gave you a bonus if your creatures were dealt damage that turn, like Ripjaw Raptor. Enrage, whenever Ripjaw Raptor is dealt damage, draw a card. I think that one was less successful because it's kind of like...
it wanted you to like do cool things about triggering it yourself.
Yeah, which seemed a little weird to me.
Yeah, and it was possible, but yeah, I agree. It wasn't always. It took a lot more maneuvering.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Maria, this was also though when we saw the return of Raid.
I do think Raid is a super cool piratey mechanic.
Yes, it's like so appropriate for pirates.
Pirates, raiding, it all comes together. Let's take a look at a raid creature.
Here's one of the ones that I remember so well. Marauding Looter. This was an uncommon 2 blue-red for a 4/3 raid. At the beginning of your end step, if you attacked with a creature this turn, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card.
Yeah, rewarding you for attacking. I'm always here for that. And the fact that it was on pirates, great. This is also the return of vehicles. since we had seen them last in Kaladesh. We got some ships for the pirates. And I remember when we found out we were going here, I was like, Megan, do you think we're going to have pirate ships? And then we did.
Yes.
So cool.
This was also, I remember you calling that. That was very good.
You gotta have the ships.
One thing that I did forget to mention is, we're going to take a step back for a second into Amonkhet, because I remembered it looking at some of these cards. Do you remember Slitherblade, and when people found the Slitherblade deck?
Yeah, and Christian Calcano drafting the Slitherblade deck like for Hell or High Water at the Pro Tour like 3 times or something.
Oh my goodness. So Slitherblade was like a little 1/1 unblockable. And then like the idea of that deck was you just slapped enchantments on it and like prayed.
And you're like, let's go, Slitherblade, let's go.
Like, can this happen? And like a lot of the times the answer was like, yes.
Oh my God, a huge bug just landed on my desk and I'm freaking out right now.
No.
I don't know what to do.
What kind of bug? I don't want to know. Don't tell me about it.
Okay, it's like... It's crawly, but it can fly.
No, I didn't want to know.
It's like yay big. Everybody, what do you think it is? It's crawling up my computer right now.
No, Maria. Oh, God. What are we going to do?
I don't know. I think I'm just going to try and leave it alone and maybe it won't fly into my hair.
Oh, no. Don't say stuff like that.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's hidden now. It went behind the computer.
Anyways, I was thinking of it because people did that again with this set in some ways with stuff like Blightkeeper, which was the little 1/1 bat for 1. But then you'd put like Mark of the Vampire on it.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I do, actually.
And you could even do it. There was like a hexproof flying merfolk, the 5-mana one.
Oh,
that was a 3/2.
yeah.
So you could also do it like with that one.
Just choosing out wins.
Yeah, exactly. Like I remember this was a little bit of an era where you could do fun stuff like that, especially since in blue there was Dive Down, which gave creatures hexproof for 1 blue. Oh,
beautiful, beautiful Dive Down. You've got to love it. This set also gave me some of my favorite vampires, and vampires are my favorite tribe in Magic and have been responsible for some of my absolute favorite decks over the years. There was a great Sorin deck that appeared eventually in Standard using vampires. And we got cards like, let's find my favorite ones here. Sanctum Seeker. Whenever a vampire you control attacks, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life.
That's right. We got Legion Lieutenant, which was just like the Vampire Lord.
I just can't even look at these cards and just not. I mean, Adanto Vanguard is, I think, has a chance of being my favorite card ever printed in Magic, which is a 1/1 for 1 and a white. As long as it's attacking and gets +2/+0, pay 4 life, it gains indestructible until end of turn.
Yeah.
I love it.
You know, as we're remembering this set, I think this speaks to what you were saying earlier of like, we're not talking much about the dinos.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Other than Zakama being like the one thing you want to hit when you're playing Arena Momir. That's like its claim to fame. Okay,
look, I'm going to tell you the best dino in this set, and you're going to be like, oh, I didn't even play that in a dino's deck. That's Territorial Hammerskull.
Oh, yeah.
The 2/3 for 3, whenever it attacks, tap target creature an opponent controls. You just played it in a deck with white. You didn't play it in a dino deck.
That's true. I remember there was a draft where I drafted, I kid you not, like 7 Territorial Hammerskulls.
Great.
And I played all of them.
Of course you did. That card's nuts.
Card's really good. It's so good.
But the Dinos deck just wasn't as powerful. It was too clunky, which, should not surprise you being a dinosaur deck. But here's the fun thing. All these dinos came out of this set. It made dinosaurs a thing. So they'll print more dinos in the future, which is great. And I also love my dinos deck in Best of 1 on Arena. Yeah. It's really, really fun. I love tribal decks in Best of 1. In fact, I was just playing a Sorin deck in the Historic Brawl event on Arena.
Makes
and
sense.
having an absolute stinking blast. Megan and I love Best of 1 formats, and Historic Brawl has been so fun that I played it after I got my number of wins. I was like, I don't care. I'm still playing this because this is really, really fun. And Dinosaurs is a fun singleton deck. There you go. Off my soapbox.
All right. I mean, Ixalan is such a cool plane, and I like, as we talk about it, I can't wait to go back. This is a plane I'm excited to revisit.
Absolutely. Give me more vampires, please. I don't care about the merfolk, you guys. So, like.
Wow. Yeah. You know.
Who am I, Corbin Hostler? Yeah.
Oh, but Maria, this brings us to Dominaria.
Oh, Dominaria.
And this, like, another truly excellent draft format.
Yes, this is right up there with cons in my mind.
Oh, yes. So good. And this is the one that kind of took people by surprise. I feel like people were like, wait a second, like this Dominaria, this like random one block.
Yeah. This like random one-off set.
Is like excellent. Oh, what a fun draft.
Dominaria was home to some mechanics you might recognize, such as historic cards, which were artifact sagas, as well as legendary permanents and sorceries, as well as kicker, and it had a little bit of crew as well.
Oh, kicker sagas though. Like I can't believe you would just like jump over sagas.
Okay, let's take a second to talk about sagas.
Sagas, which were just like one of the coolest new innovations in Magic.
Absolutely true. The creation of these sagas. Let's talk about a saga.
One of my favorites, Mirari Conjecture.
Yep.
4 and a blue. As this saga enters the battle, and after your draw step, add a lore counter. Sacrifice after 3. So you play it. You get chapter 1. Return target instant card from your graveyard to your hand. Then next turn, you get chapter 2. Return target sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Next turn, you get chapter 3, and then you sacrifice it until end of turn. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy.
Yeah, so these were essentially reading the story of Dominaria to you. You're going through the various chapters, and they were developed. There is actually a column that you can look if you want to do some Googling. You can find out how the sagas came to be. Actually, Richard Garfield came back to Wizards to help them work on Dominaria because, of course, it's the most iconic Magic plane. And these were his ideas, and you can see the old sketches of him drawing these out and what they looked like when he was first envisioning them. And I don't know how to say this. I think you're right that these are the biggest, coolest addition to Magic within our time of playing the game.
Yes, absolutely. I think so. Like, I guess vehicles are maybe up there. But like in my mind, vehicles don't compare.
No, they don't. Sagas are just better. And I love vehicles, and sagas are just incredible.
The Eldest Reborn. Like this is an iconic one. This was an uncommon and you just wanted it every time.
Absolutely did.
It was so good. And like the art on them is so cool because you get the vertical art.
Yes.
Instead of the horizontal art. Like, everything about it was so good.
And here's the big picture on Dominaria. We're not only obsessed with like sagas and all of the cool things like the historic mechanic, which was really neat. The fact is that this was a very solid draft format. You could do whatever you wanted. It was viable. No strategy was broken.
A billion things you could do.
You could be very creative in your deck building and the way you executed games. Games were interesting. They had you make lots of decisions. You could just create the coolest things in draft. So much happened that just goes down in history.
Saplings and with stuff like Thalid Omnivore.
Yep.
So you could just make tons of saplings. There were like even the red aggro decks were viable.
Yeah, you could draft mono red. It was a real thing. I love the card Get to Chronicler. I'm going to bring that one up.
Oh, yes.
1 in red for a 1/3. Wizards was a great strategy. This could also be played in mono red. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand, which in a Wizards deck, you of course want instants and sorceries. Kicker cost was 3 in a red. And it's a 1/3, and you're like, give me all of them.
Every single one. You had Gitu Journey Mage, 2 in a red for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, if you control another wizard, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. I just want to draft this set right now. Looking at it, I'm just like, yes, I want to do this.
There is something that Dominaria did that a lot of people will never forgive it for, and that is for creating Teferi Hero of Dominaria.
Okay. Do you know what? Some people will quote unquote never forgive it, and I will never be done thanking it.
One of my favorite cards from this set was a rare Blackblade Reforged.
Oh, great
because
card.
I love to draft historic and legendary creatures. And this said, equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control. Equip 7, but if you equip a legendary creature, it's equip 3, and it costs 2 mana. Yeah, I just love that. There were so many cool legendary creatures to play in this set that it just was super fun.
Do you remember when Sam Black made history by drafting the Primeval's Glorious Rebirth legendary deck?
I do.
So this was one of a cycle called Legendary Sorceries, which you could only cast if you controlled a legendary creature or planeswalker.
Yep.
And Primeval's Glorious Rebirth says 5 white, black, return all legendary permanent cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. And Sam Black just blew everyone's mind.
Yeah, at some pro tour drafting this.
And
everyone was like,
this.
what has he done? You looked at the list and you're like, what is this garbage pile? And then he played it and just, destroyed everybody.
Also, Maria, this was the set that brought us Skits.
Oh, Skits.
Skittering Surveyor. And I feel like it says so much about a set that this dumb little comment is one of our favorite things.
Okay, hold up. We're going to make a comparison here because this is a common. This is an artifact. Okay, so compare this to Kaladesh when we're like, this card ruined games. It made games so unfun when they could have been fun because it was so accessible. Put it in any deck and we're mad. And here we're like, this card made games really fun. It was so accessible.
Yes.
Put it in any deck. It was
Skits
great.
Is perfection. 3 mana for a 1/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library.
Yep.
So
Great.
good. So good.
Skittering Surveyor also won cutest card of the year that year.
Yes.
Because we not
it's
only
perfect.
loved it, but it was so cute in what it did. It gets you land. So you could play 3 color decks if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And
there were plenty of reasons to. I'm just looking through this, all of the 2 color legends, all of the 3 color legends. There was just, what a set.
What a set. And I just want to take a second to be once again, on my stump, on my, what's it called?
Soapbox.
Soapbox. Thank you. My soapbox is made of a tree stump. It's a stump
Great.
speech on a soapbox. Anyway, we are talking about Skittering Surveyor and how much we love Skittering Surveyor, how much we love Dominaria, and comparing it to Kaladesh. I think sometimes people who are in decision-making positions at Wizards of the Coast push for exciting, big, flashy, splashy cards like something like the Pain Train, which is easy to draft, and you're like, this is what players want. But what we're talking about is we're way, way, way more excited about Skittering Surveyor and how great the games turned out to be when you're playing Skittering Surveyor that you're like, don't think about it that way. I'm somebody who loves to play with big splashy cards, and I'm like, don't give me them.
Yes, girls don't want boyfriends. Girls want telescopes with legs.
Yes, we do. That is accurate.
Yes.
And this is accomplishing what you are attempting to accomplish through a different means. And so you just need to rewire your brains to think about what does it mean to have a fun, splashy, exciting moment in a draft.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, okay, continue.
Oh, man. Also, we're at 52 minutes.
Holy cow, we're never going to be done with our draft retrospective.
We never are because we can't just race through these other ones.
No, they're so good. Okay, it turns out this is going to be a 3-parter, I guess.
Oh my God. Because it's not like we've been, I feel like we've just been talking about them a normal amount.
Yeah, we could have gone way deeper on all of these too, by the way.
Absolutely.
But we're like, no, we got to keep moving. There's so many to get through.
Well, all right then.
Stay tuned for part 3.
We've just learned that apparently we're never going to be done with this draft retrospective because we have too much to remember.
All right, next week we'll do part 3.
That's right. Next week we will bring you part 3, which starts with the return of core sets.
Oh yes, that's funny. I'm not going to say anymore because we're going to save it for next week.
Oh wow. Oh man, what a trip it has been. What a
surely
fun
has.
time we're having taking this trip.
Absolutely. And just such an amazing memories to be had through all of these sets. Even if we're like, oh, we didn't love this set or whatever, it still proves like how great Magic is, that we're like, oh, look at all these cool cards we got for these other formats, and that, or look at the lessons that were learned because of this format, which I think is pretty cool.
Yes, it's great. It's so cool. So, next time, more. Next time we really will get through the rest of them.
Hey, you say that now.
Before we go, everybody, we have another sponsor to thank, which is the wonderful Ultra Pro.
Ultra Pro, making everything you could possibly want for your gift giving season. Does your person you're buying gifts for love Commander? Well, guess what? They've got a bunch of new products with the Commander Legends art on it.
Beautiful playmats, deck boxes, sleeves. They have a new set of the cube deck box that holds 100 cards, and it comes with a set of matching sleeves in it.
Absolutely. Do you want a sweet, they have their pro gear, which is really nice deck boxes and playmats that have this really cool contrast, mythic orange stitching around them.
Yep. Their new big alcove, triple one, you can hold up to 3 commander decks in it. 3.
What if you want a life pad with the wolf with antlers on it? Whatever. I forget the name of that wolf, but.
Wolf with antlers.
They have it. Don't worry.
It's so good. They do have it.
They've got it.
Great.
Ultra Pro, anything you need for gift giving season, they've got it all. And super great sponsors to boot.
Well, everybody, that's our show.
Wow.
Oh, man. You always say that part, and I feel very weird.
Well, that's fine. You've taken the mantle for this episode.
Okay.
Of saying, well, everybody.
Well, everybody, that's our show.
Part 2 of 3 of our draft retrospective. Thank you, everybody who supports our show on Patreon. You're all so wonderful, and we are so very thankful that you exist in the world and that you help us out and keep us on the air or coming out of your cat's mouth every single week. We're here for you, and we ask that you be here for us, hopefully, in this season of giving that is upon us. Thank you so much. If you want to become a patron, it's so easy. It takes less than 30 seconds over at patreon.com/GLHF Magic.
That's right. Thank you as well to our sponsors, Card Kingdom and Ultra Pro. Just 2 lovely sets of people and places. That's right. They are both people and places.
They are people and places.
For you to shop this holiday season, if you're looking to get those Magic players in your life, something real cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Really great place to go. Card Kingdom and Ultra Pro supplying excellent products to them as well. I'm going to make sure this bug is gone.
You know what? Ever since you talked about it, I feel like there's a bug around me. Even though there's not.
You just get the feeling of bug since I mentioned bug.
Yes, exactly. It's like the idea is there now. I can't make it go away.
I know what you're saying, and I feel like it's back there. It's got to still be behind my computer. Sorry about this bug situation, everyone.
Maria, I hope you get that sorted out.
Yeah, me too. Me too.